All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for podcast episode 11. I got my friend Dave McFarland here.
Hey, everybody.
I've known him for quite a while, and he's actually the creator of Local Volks.
One of them.
We'll go more into that later. First, we're going to talk about how Dave got into Volkswagens.
So some of my earliest memories were with Volkswagens. Some of the earliest pictures that I have with me are with Volkswagens. I don't know how my dad got into them. He was always a car guy when he was younger and did some go-kart racing and circle track racing. Since I could remember, he drove a VW every day, and somehow he got hooked up with a group called Tampa Bay Buggy Club that had rail buggies and Bajas that they rode around in. And some of the earliest pictures I have is of me, probably 2 or 3 years old, wearing a Tampa Bay Buggy Club shirt, sitting in the rail buggy my dad was building. And my dad had a '69 Beetle that he daily drove, and a lot of memories with that. That just kind of laid the groundwork, I guess. And really, my parents, they really didn't have the money to pay people to fix cars, so my dad always did all the mechanical work on it.
Yeah.
That's how I learned to turn wrenches. Always liked cool cars, but never could afford to just have somebody build one. So I was like, oh, if it's going to happen, it's got to be me.
I was stuck in that same boat.
It was kind of easy, and my dad laid the groundwork, and my passion for cars and VWs just kind of took over from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's the same thing. I didn't have money to be buying all kinds of stuff like that. Remember my bus, 61 bus. First, I tried taking the stock transmission, and I put 68 Beetle, long axle, long spline, axles and tubes and everything on there. And I'm like, I'm going to flip the pink run. I think it was the wrong pin.
Yeah.
Whatever. I took the transmission part, flipped that, and put it in there. I had gear oil and grease all over the place. But yeah, it was, you do what you can to save a little bit of money.
Yeah, exactly. And you look back on those times, and you're like, man, it was good times. But you're like, God, it's a miracle the thing even worked at all.
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah, and I remember like the first time I took apart like the headlights on my early Beetle with those weird spring clips and everything, and took them all apart and painted all the housings, and I went to put them back together. I have no idea what to do at this point, so had to take it to a professional for that. So,
right.
A lot of memories, a lot of mistakes made and lessons learned.
And you had what year was your early Beetle?
Well, so the first car I drove was a '66 standard Beetle. And I had a couple of late model Type 3 squarebacks before that, before I was even old enough to drive. Because back then, everything was like how many 12 or 15-inch subwoofers you could fit in the car. Teenage Dave was like doing the math. I'm like, a station wagon can hold a lot more subwoofers than a Beetle. Still have a back seat. So I got a couple of those, and back then you can get a VW for free that didn't run or drive and probably had rust, but it came with a title, and you get them for free.
Man, those were the days.
I know, right? So I had a couple of those, and just nothing never really panned out, and we had them in the yard. And one day, the insect guy was at our house looking for insects, and he was like, oh, you guys like VWs? And somehow he had ended up with a '66 standard Beetle, and he sold it to us for $200 with a title. I really kicked myself for, teenage Dave, like had his eyes on like this was like the late '80s. So like the cow looker, bright blue paint job and shiny wheels and everything. Looking back, I'm like, man, that car would have been perfect the way it was, because I guess it was Savannah beige. It was a light beige color. I think it was Savannah beige. But it had the original brown door panels and interior, which teenage Dave wanted to be a part of. So whatever team I could come up with, crazy turquoise, pink, whatever. But but the car was original paint, original interior, original 1300 motor. Which my dad and I, we got running and kind of driving.
6-volt still?
6-volt. Then I drove it up and down. So I grew up on a dirt road and learned how to drive stick going up and down the road in that Beetle with a 1300. And I'd pull the 1300 out and put a 1776 in it and lower the car and rattle can primed over the perfectly good original paint.
Yeah.
This things teenagers do. But looking back, I'm like, man, that would have been a cool car just to shine up and, keep driving.
6-volt back. So I've never driven anything 6-volt. I hear like during cold weather it's hard to start, but I'm in Florida we don't really have that.
Florida wasn't a problem. The biggest thing was the headlights aren't that great.
Yeah.
And the windshield wipers were just god awful slow. Yeah. When I put the bigger motor in it, I upgraded to 12-volt. And I just did like the volta drop thing. instead of finding the 67 only wiper motor. And, I thought I was cool because I made, made a little thing that went in my ashtray with a little plate for the voltage drop. So
Oh,
there was a
nice.
knob in there because I don't want to drill holes in the
No. But we'll paint we'll spray paint the whole car and door panels. And
exactly.
right.
But can't drill an extra hole in the
No
dashboard.
drill hole.
Yeah, it was the headlights and the windshield wipers was about the the limits. I never really had problems starting the car with a 6-volt battery.
Yeah. I remember I think I bought a part from your dad and I forget.
It was a case.
Was it a case? It might have been a case, yeah.
Yeah.
A long block or something, maybe a case. And I forget what it was for. Now that's going back.
I think it was a 1600.
Yeah, that does sound familiar.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and then you ended up selling it back to me.
Maybe. Oh, yes,
You did.
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was, yeah. That's funny how these parts they stay close. I think I might have been putting that in my bus or in my Beetle at the time. I forget. I blew the motor in my Beetle in 2009 or 2010. I think maybe I was looking for it then. If that's right around the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bought so many parts I can't decipher what part was when.
I forgot all about that until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
But...
What's Volkswagen? No. So that's cool. So you had the 66, and I remember. I think when we met, you had the 72.
72, yeah.
So the 72 standard.
Yep. So that came about. So I drove the 66 through high school and after high school. And I was in a really bad car accident the summer after I graduated high school. And my dad had a 65 Chevelle station wagon. And it was a beautiful car, but it had a bench seat. I was probably 6 or 8 inches taller than my dad. And we were driving down Gun Highway, and a lady kind of made a turn in front of us and hit us head on. My head hit the windshield. It only had lap belts, being a 65, sorry. It only had lap belts, and with a bench seat, him being so much shorter, I sat closer. So hit the windshield, and afterwards I was like, maybe like an old VW isn't the smartest car to drive, So I didn't have VWs for a couple years, and then my wife and I just had a new Ranger, a 94 Ranger that we had bought, and we were kind of sharing it. And we got to the point where we needed something in addition, and we were early 20s, and didn't have much money. So I was like, I can get a VW cheap, which is ironic that, that was the thought process. And so I bought a really beautiful 69 Type 3 Fastback from Chris Trepnell's younger brother.
No kidding.
And I know Chris from high school,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't remember him as a VW guy then. I think he kind of got out of VW or got into VWs after we graduated. So I think I found the car on the Auto Trader and I paid like $2,500. And this was original paint, 69 Fastback, beautiful black leather interior, still had the fuel injected motor.
Oh, nice.
Was a full automatic. And it was funny because, like, I had known Chris from high school, and when I went to go get the car, I don't even think his younger brother was there. So take test drive and everything, and give him the money and sign the title and everything. I go to get in it to drive away, and I can't get the thing to start. I'm sitting there in his driveway, and I was like, man, like, this is going to be awkward. Like, we just bought this guy's car and can't get it out of his driveway. So I go knock on the door. I'm like, hey, man, I can't get the car to start. He's like, oh, yeah, I got to show you. So I always said, like, the Type 3, the full automatic, is like the car that nobody could figure out how to steal. Because for some reason, I guess VW decided that the car should be in neutral to start it and not park like any other car. But the thing is the shifter, you had to pull it up. If it's in park, you have to pull it up and put it back into reverse and then pop it down and pop it into neutral and then start it. I'm like, there is nobody on earth that would figure that out unless they're a VW person.
Yeah, I never knew that. Wow.
So started right up then, and man, that thing purred like a kitten. Back then, the Suncoast VW Club was around. They were meeting down in Tarpon Springs at the frat house, which is now the Cody's Roadhouse down at 19. They were a pretty active group, and we did like a navigation rally one time that went up through like the hills of Brooksville and everything. And it was me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and my sister, and another friend of ours. Volkswagens are like notoriously like not fast, but I fell in love with that automatic because like it was just so nice to drive, and the way the torque converter and everything was, like, it was peppier than a stick shift Beetle.
Okay.
To me, especially in a heavy Type 3.
Yeah.
I just remember cruising those back roads like 65, 70 mile an hour, doing the rally, and it was awesome. And I only had that car for like 3 months. I was driving it to work one morning, and a lady turned in front of me, and just destroyed the car. I broke my kneecap against the dashboard, and the doors were wedged closed, and of course the batteries underneath the back seats. Yeah. As soon as the accident happens, I can't get out because the door wouldn't open. I look down and I see my actual kneecap, like all the skin was gone. I see my actual kneecap split, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna wait here for a little bit. But like the horn was like constantly like shorted out to where it was going.
Gosh.
So because I turned the key off, and because the car being fuel injected had an electric fuel pump, so I turned the key off, and the horn starts going, and it like not intermittent, like constant. I turn the key on and the horn shuts off, but I can hear the fuel pump, and I was like, well, the horn's annoying, but the fuel pump running in a car that's destroyed, like, could be more problematic. So I just turn the key back off, and I'm sitting there, and the horn's just going crazy. And I remember the firemen get there, like, can you turn the horn off? And I explained to them, they're like, yeah, you're good. So the guy just reaches in through the passenger window with bolt cutters and cuts the battery cable. They had to cut the front door off the car to get me out. I was saying some unpleasant things about the lady that hit me. They gave me the classic spiel about, you can always replace the car, but there's only one of you. And I was like, well, how many of these have you seen on the road today? And he was like, I don't know. What is it? I'm like, exactly. And that tore me up because, it was a beautiful, like, original car, original paint and interior. And it was just folded up at that point.
That's a shame. It's nice when you see it, even you can find them originally unmolested, just a clean car,
Yeah.
It's like to now, it's very rare now because over the years, everything's been modified with rims or just something. Like you said, like in the 80s, it was like one-piece windows, shaved doors, widened fiberglass fenders. There's so much that's been done with these cars, and it's hard to find like an original.
Yeah. So after the Type 3 was destroyed, I was like, I need something like with a padded dash and like 3-point bell. So the guys that I worked with at the time all had Fox body Mustangs, and I was like, what safer car on the road is there than a Fox body Mustang? So I got into 5-liter Mustangs, and I had a lot of fun with that. Ended up building a Fox body Mustang that was a 4-cylinder turbo car. And then when they changed the laws after the Fast and Furious movie came out and they really started cracking down on street racing, I was like, you probably should find something a little more friendly to my driver's license, to do. One of my uncles, he had always been into VWs the whole time, and we were at a family reunion, and we were talking, and he was like, yeah, I got a rail buggy, and me and all my friends go riding in the woods and everything. I grew up, like I said, in the Tampa Bay Buggy Club, riding buggies, and I'm like, they still do that? Because at the time, we were riding in Croom when I was a kid.
Yep.
But they changed the laws after that, made it to where it was like dirt bike and 4-wheeler only. So I was like, they still ride buggies anywhere? He's like, yeah, we're riding the Ocala Forest. And I was like, I think I found my new hobby. So built a rail buggy and still had my 4-cylinder turbo Mustang. And then I met another guy through rail buggies, my friend Gaten, who's one of my closest friends. And he actually had the 72 Beetle. And he was interested in my Mustang. So we actually swapped. So that's how I ended up with the 72. I swapped him my Mustang. And that was a cool car. It was, I guess he had got it from the original owner who apparently bought the car new in 72 while he was going to school for like body work.
Okay.
So I don't think he ever really drove the car every day because, the car, like the doors just closed nice and tight. There were no squeaks, no rattles. It just felt like a low mileage car.
Yeah.
But the paint was trash because the guy had just done all kinds of custom body work to it.
Okay.
The 72 had the little crescent vents behind the windows. He had filled those in, but did them like a Mexican Beetle.
Okay.
So the indent was still there.
Yep.
Shaved the turn signals, a bunch of little stuff. Shaved in the grill on the hood. The fresh air grill, and shaved the front trunk handle and the deck lid and everything. But it was just like 10 different colors of primer and stuff. And so I got that, and I ended up putting it on air ride and just rattle canning it flat black. That's the car that I had when we met.
Yeah.
When Local Volks started.
Well, that was I'm trying to remember when we met. It was early 2000s. I know that.
Yeah.
And I think we met first at Air Cooled Auto House.
We did. Back when you had the afro that I'm not supposed to talk about.
That was a couple years back.
When you had your 61 bus,
Yep.
which I still remember that being like the absolute world's rustiest bus.
It was pretty rough.
But yeah, and that's how I kind of reconnected with Chris Shrapnel and,
Yep.
and Greg and a few of those guys that
Yeah.
we met when they were getting that little club off the ground. And then I don't remember how long after that. It must have been enough time because that the shop Chris sold out his half, and the club never went
Dave
anywhere.
was still there for a little while doing it. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah, but the club that they started like didn't really kind of pan out, I guess.
Yeah.
Because then somehow we got the VW Newport Richie
Yes.
show, and I think that's where we met for the last time.
Yeah.
And,
Probably, yeah, because I didn't really go in. I really didn't go to any meets or anything like that. I just kind of, the only thing I ever went to after that was just like Bug Jam. I think it was probably just Bug Jam.
Yeah.
You know, I really never went to much, but I remember going to some of those meets at Eric Lugata House, and you know, and Angie was saying like, how did you guys get meets together without Facebook and all this other stuff? And I'm trying to remember. You know, I don't know. Was it just something? You know, and then she was talking about like, how do we for meets or shows? And I said, well, I remember my Hot VWs magazine back in, I don't know, I started getting that in '97. But I would like open up the magazine and it would have shows listed. I remember seeing shows in Florida, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to that show. No. But I do remember seeing pictures of the little meets that we used to have with the Air Cooled Auto House. I remember there was a gentleman, and I think I've asked you before, and I can't think of his name. I feel terrible. But there was a gentleman that had an orange, I think it was a 74 Super Beetle. It had some almost like turbine looking wheels on it. And I remember he had a cane. He walked with a cane. Longer hair. Looked like Eddie Vedder. I don't know. But a really cool guy. There was a bunch of cool people in that group. But
yeah.
And then obviously I just kind of stopped going. I don't know why.
Yeah, I just think it just kind of fizzled out.
Yeah, I think that's what happened.
To answer your question, like I don't know how we knew about the Air Cooled Auto House meets. I don't know how we knew about the VW Newport Richie meets. I don't know how we knew. We just
or something.
So there was things, I don't know about, well, I don't know if that was, but there was a forum, I think, because I remember seeing our pictures. We must have had some like group, you know. I remember Foreign Policy had like meets, and then they had like a little forum almost thing, and we used to go on there. But I don't remember. I thought we had something maybe similar to that. Maybe Dave set up or Trap set up.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that's why
it's a long ago.
Yeah, it's been a long.
I
know, man. That's what I'm trying to find. Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, probably.
Smoke signals.
Yeah, I know.
Airplane with a banner flying.
Driving by in the Volkswagen, someone stops you. Like, maybe someone drove by, you were driving by, and then someone else drove by, like, hey, why don't you come over here? We're going to do a meet or something. I'm like,
yeah.
Maybe. But I just can't think that far back. I think there might have been MySpace back then, if they had that.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I mean,
Space.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Maybe AOL. I remember Yahoo, the Yahoo chat rooms. That's what I remember.
Yeah. So we may be jumping ahead a little bit, but with a foundation of Local Volks, I wanted to do like an email list. Maybe make some business cards with an email and collect email addresses, and then send emails out when we were going to meet or cruise together or go to a show or whatever. And my friend Jason, who was also one of the founders of Local Volks, he was like, no, Facebook. I'm like, I don't know if this Facebook thing's going to stick around. I actually didn't have a Facebook account then. And I was like, I don't know, man, email's here forever, like Facebook, you know. Maybe that was about the time MySpace started dwindling, and I was like, you know, who's to say Facebook isn't the next MySpace? But he talked me into, you know, doing MySpace, and here we are. And it's crazy that, you know, I met him by chance because I had my rail buggy, and another good friend of mine, Ben, we were working on our cars, getting ready to go to the woods one weekend. We went into the Advanced Auto Parts near my house. And we're talking about our buggies and stuff. And this guy's like, oh, you guys know Volkswagens? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, I'm thinking about trading my Toyota pickup for this Beetle, but I don't know anything about them. He was like, it's an oval window. I'm like, are you sure it's an oval window? Because I was like, it's a pretty uncommon car, you know, for Florida. And he was like, yeah, the guy says it's an oval window. He showed me a picture. I'm like, it's an oval window. Yeah. And I was like, man, I didn't know this guy from Adam, but I was like, I'd go with you and look at the car, but I'm like, we're going to the woods riding this weekend. If you can go next weekend or whatever. He's like, oh, I'm supposed to drive my truck up there and So we went to the woods and went riding, and went back the next week, and he was like, yeah, I got that Beetle. And come to find out, he was like, yeah, I went up to this place called Eustis to trade them. And I was like, that's like literally 10 minutes from where we were riding our buggy. It's like
no
right outside of
kidding.
Ocala. And I was like, that blows my mind. But that was Jason Parola. And he was the one that convinced me to do the Facebook group. And at the time, we really didn't know many. I hadn't reconnected with you. I hadn't met PJ yet, because I don't think I met PJ until the VW Newport Richie meet. I think you maybe knew PJ.
Yeah,
because we fixed his bus twice in the parking lot that day.
Yeah, him and I went and got his bus with I had a big jacked up F-250 Amarillo diesel truck, I remember. And him and I went down there. Where did we go? I think it was either Tampa or
I want to say
St.
South
Pete.
Tampa.
Yeah, it was somewhere. And we went and got this thing, and it like broke down, I think, when we picked it up, and we had to stop in the gas station. I think we had to get it towed, and it was it was a fun experience.
Yeah, so you knew him, and I never knew PJ until I reconnected with you and met him at the VW Newport Richie. But Jason and I, somehow we found out about a water cooled group that was called Dubocracy. And they've changed their name. I think they changed it to Gulf Coast Euros after that.
Okay.
But Dubocracy, they were typical water cooled guys. They were younger. They had nice cars, and they were meeting down in South Tampa at a Best Buy parking lot on Saturday nights. And my thing is I said, we need to be at a certain place at a certain time, because we weren't really like established. We didn't have a network of where people could be. So I was like, if we can tell them the first Saturday of every month on this Best Buy, 9 p.m. or whatever, like that's going to be the best way. Because if you see somebody in traffic or whatever, we can build up that way.
That makes sense.
And I told him, I said, we might as well hang out with a water cool group. I said, because if nobody else shows up, then we're not just like two fat guys in the parking lot.
And wait a minute, so that was with Jason?
That was with Jason. So, and then maybe through the Democracy guys is how we found out about the Newport Richie show.
Okay.
But I don't believe he was there. I think he had to work, because like I said, he worked at Advanced Auto Parts, and he had to work some Saturdays. Because I know whenever I met like you or reconnected with you and met PJ, I don't think Jason was there. But Jason and I kind of, we started doing the Sonic meets and the Best Buy meets with a water cool group, and hanging out with them, and just trying to collect like email addresses and start the Facebook page and trying to just get the word out there. And then, like I said, I think he was working. So we went. I went to Newport Richie show, met you and PJ, fixed PJ's bus a couple times, and I was like, "Well, we're just trying to get this group off the ground." And then we actually went to Zimzari, because I think we went to Zimzari because they would allow your dogs to sit outside.
Yeah, they did.
PD and
Dub, yep.
Yeah. So we chose Zimzari, which is crazy, because then after the group got off the ground, we literally met every Tuesday for tacos for probably 5 or 6 years there.
Yeah.
Only every Tuesday. And they were like, yeah, let's look for some other places. Yeah. But we met every Tuesday for probably 10 years.
That was fun. I mean, I remember the dogs, even my dogs running around. I had 2 pit bulls, and they would be running around playing and fighting or whatever. And then we're out sitting out front. We'd have our chairs sitting out there, the cars all parked all over the place, and we would just talk and hang out at night. But we would sit down at a table outside.
Yeah.
And we'd eat. And it was a cool atmosphere. I mean, everyone was. We'd have some pretty big meets there sometimes.
Yeah, we did. I mean, sometimes we didn't, but a lot of times we did.
Yeah. It was pretty impressive how far people came.
I mean, we had people coming from across the state. Jeffrey Garner. Shout out to Jeffrey Garner.
Yeah.
He literally drove from across the state because he was getting ready to leave on a cross-country trip with his bus.
Yeah.
So him and my friend Gaten drove over from Daytona area to $2 tacos.
Yeah.
I mean, they were good $2 tacos.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
But we were getting people from Sarasota, Bradenton, and Daytona, and all over the place.
To our hood for a meet, Volkswagen meet.
Yeah.
Going back to Local Volks, being one of the creators of Local Volks, Dan now is kind of transitioning to taking over that role, and he's doing a lot of good for the club too. But
group.
Not club. It's not a club. It's a group. There's no club. It's a group. But it's funny, but it's at Bug Jam every year. Local Volks always takes the cake for biggest. They say club affiliation, but it's group affiliation. Always most participants at Bug Jam.
Yeah.
There's over 5,000 members in Local Volks, and it's only a Florida-based group. Only Florida members can join. And I think that's pretty impressive to have a group with 5,000, over 5,000 members. We just looked at just a little while ago. It's up to 5.1 thousand, 5,100.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was like, we got like 3,500 members, and then I happened to look, and I was like, well, we're over 5,000. But the distinction between group and club, I grew up playing sports and being involved in clubs and racing RC cars and being involved in clubs. And the one thing I learned is like the minute you have like president, vice president, treasurer, and dues and everything, it gets to become a hassle. It gets to become political. So that's why I was always insistent, like, this is a group. It's not a club, and it's all of our groups.
Right.
When we had these shirts made, like, I fronted all the money for these, and then I sold them for cost to people that wanted them. And I wish I could have made more, but I didn't want to be left with shirts, you know? Right. So, because I didn't want any animosity created over politics or money or, you know, any accusations or anything.
Right.
And, you know, I think I like the idea of group because there's been people, you know, Jason and I were very active in the beginning building it up. Jason passed away in 2019 of leukemia, very short notice. He found out he had leukemia on a Friday, and he was dead on a Monday. And that's only when they pulled him off life support. He was brain dead that Sunday. But we've had people that have steered or kind of led over the years. And, you know, Dan has taken on that role now, thankfully. And the one thing that I always like to say is when Dan first started hanging out, he was like the shy, quiet guy that would just sit over the corner and not talk. We're like, who's this weirdo? I know, it's so amazing to say that now, but we're like, who's this weirdo? He just kind of sit there and stare at everybody. Dan is the life of the party now. He's got a personality that just attracts people to him.
Yeah. He knows so many people.
He does. And he's kind of taken over the reins and thankful. One of the most impactful things for me about that group, you know, 5,000 people is nice. Largest club for, God, I don't know how many years running, probably 6 or 7 years running, if not more.
At least. At
Bug Jam.
Yeah, at least. Has it even lost?
I don't think we've lost since we've started really.
Since they started doing that. So
and really only in the first couple of years were we telling people, hey, put Local Volks. Hey, put Local Volks. And then after that, like, we just kind of got about it. Like, all right, we want it. So, you know, now it just happens. We don't even tell anybody.
It's just like, all right, you guys know what it's going to be. Oh, Local Volks. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's just like when they can announce it.
And, you know, with my work schedule and social schedule and everything,
you were busy. I remember
really get down there.
Yeah, I remember you.
I was working nights and, you know, and after Jason passed away, I wanted to go down to the causeway, and I took his mom with me, and I just wanted to hang out and just kind of watch the sunset and everything. And I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
But when I went there, and all these people, and I had no idea who they were. And a lot of people would be upset about that. I started this club, and now there's people showing up. But it showed that this group had taken on a life of its own.
Right.
It was bigger than any one person.
Right.
Or 2 people or 5 people.
Right.
And when you see people that have all their own stickers made of the Local Volks logo, their interpretations of everything, it's like, you know, it's awesome because, like, I knew that even if I couldn't be there, like, the group was still surviving and breathing, and it was a living entity on its own.
Right.
And that's the part that I love.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It grew. So many people. It was like, oh, this was such a great group because everyone was cool. It was a bunch of cool people. Hey, let's get together. It just seemed like everyone wanted to be a part of it. Like, we had like T-Bags and I think Space and some other, like, I don't really know if those really were big groups. I remember those like in the 90s, early 90s, maybe late 80s, But when Local Volks came out, speaking of Jason, when that meet at the Dunedin Causeway, all the people that came, I'm sure that was a big, because I couldn't go either. But just to see that, it reached so many people. All those people showed up for that. You know, I mean, that's pretty cool.
And not only was there tons of new people that I had no idea who they were at that time, good friends now, but like a lot of the like OGen people that used to come out on Tuesday nights that made it out. So it was just neat to rekindle those old friendships and start new friendships and just see that even though life moves on and people change and circumstances change, like the group probably will survive. And I don't know that we did anything special with Local Volks to make it so much bigger and more successful than the groups. I think it's just the circumstances of social media.
Yeah.
And I think it was the right place, right time. Because none of those other groups had the advantages of being able to To
advertise like that maybe. And I think we had a lot of people too in our area. Like it seems like there's a lot of people in the Pinellas Pasco area, mostly Pinellas, but going to Dunedin Causeway, a lot of people showing to that, and that's like Dunedin Causeway. That still is continuing every Thursday.
Yeah, and at first it was only during daylight savings time.
Right.
Now it's like every Thursday. A lot of Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah,
and
people just go there all the time. They just and what the cool thing about Local Volks is people just comment on the group Facebook page. Hey, I'm gonna go to this restaurant, or I'm gonna go to this brewery, whatever. Anyone want to join? People are like, yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. And then by the time you know it, there's like 15 people, 20 people, or they'll do coffee, and maybe they'll go to a brewery, have a drink, and then maybe they'll go later on. They'll go have lunch over here, and then like they'll go to Dunedin Causeway, maybe watch the sunset, and it grows after that. More people start joining.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they go for like bike rides, brewery hopping. Like sometimes there's not even any Volkswagens around, which again I think is a testament to the group.
Right,
it's bigger than any one hobby. Even.
Yeah, not bringing Volkswagens. I remember downtown Newport Richie. I remember the Tuesday meets, and I think it was Mezzalunas at the time. Were there meets at Mezzaluna, which Herschel's now?
Right.
I remember there was Tuesday meets there. It's been so many names, but I might have been Mezzalunas at that time.
I think it was Johnny Grits. Yeah, that's
maybe
what
that
it was. Johnny Grits. Yeah.
Yeah, but going that, and I remember people. Sometimes there wouldn't be any Volkswagens there,
right?
And then we're all just chilling. Everyone's just chilling there. So you don't have to have Volkswagens there. People just still go out and have a good time.
And actually, one of the little pizza place that was on the corner, we were in there one night ordering pizza, and people would write on the wall in Sharpies, and somebody wrote "Local Volks sucks."
Oh yeah,
and I was like, "This is so cool! Like something I started as haters."
They know what Local Volks is.
It's like they just say like there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Right.
I mean, they at least know who they is.
They at least know what Local Volks is.
Yeah, I thought that was neat too. I don't know who wrote it, but
yeah. That's funny. Or someone maybe playing a joke or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But,
and then like a year or so ago, I was over at Daytona watching the Rolex 24 race and happened to walk by the stands in the infield, and people sticker graffiti the stands, and there's a freaking Local Volks sticker on the stands at Daytona.
Daytona, man. That's
how crazy is that?
That's cool.
Yeah, man. It's I never would have dreamed of two fat guys in a parking lot.
Look at that, man. Look what happened. And it's just a cool thing to look back. Like, wow, I started this. What are your favorite shows? Like, I think I know what your favorite show is.
I've said the answer a lot. So
he's kind of a fan, and I think it's mine too. It's mine too. But yeah, what are you gonna say?
So it has to be Nodo.
Right.
It has to be Nodo. And the way I explain this to people is Craig and I live in Pasco County, which is where Florida Bug Jam, is that the official name of Florida Bug Jam? Everybody calls it Bug Jam. Bug Jam is probably by numbers the largest VW show in Florida and probably on the East Coast. And I tell people, I live less than an hour from where Bug Jam is, and I will drive right by there to go to Nodo. I will drive the extra 3 hours to go to Nodo. What Will or Bill and his team have done is amazing. I started going to that. They had another show over there. I haven't watched the episode yet with Bill, but did he get into the whole Winter Jam thing? Yeah. Winter Jam was nuts.
Yeah.
But it just, from my understanding, it just got too big, too fast, and there are some other less than great people involved. So Bill did Nodo, and I was at the very first one, and I missed one or two since then, but I would drive right by any other show to go to Nodo, hands down. From our perspective, we drive over and back on the back roads, like we never see the interstate, just winding 3-4 hours over along the back roads. The fact that the campground is within 2 miles at most of any of the activities. The campground, they don't really hassle us. Camping at Bug Jam, it really is just, it's a hassle.
Yeah.
It's all about, did you pay?
Yeah.
And,
keep running around, walk.
Yeah. You can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. It's all about what you can't do. And at Nodo, it's just, don't be an asshole.
Right.
The whole flow of the weekend. Giuseppe's is probably one of my favorite places to eat that I've ever been to. Yeah. The old one, the new one, like the food, the service, the menu, the ambiance is awesome. It's just a great weekend.
Yeah.
I
wish you could have gone to the Tiki Docks. It was a new location. So they had Bully there, and then they had like an all-car show. there as well. But it's just right on the water, old tiki, big building, big restaurant. And it's pretty cool. And I enjoyed that setting,
Yeah.
which you'll see in some of the videos too. But
Yeah, Dan said it was where the band shell was, where where Bully was held when it was Winter Jam. I guess it was right across from the convention center over there. I think
it may have been. It may have
yeah.
been. Jeez, I don't know.
I'm not real familiar with that Daytona Beach area,
Yeah.
so Winter Jam was awesome, but it just got to be more about the money. And I think the last year they had Winter Jam, I want to say it was like $30 to like get in to look around.
Oh wow! Yeah,
and I was like, yeah, no, I can't, because the year before, like we always did the navigational rally there, which going back to Suncoast VW, those days. I loved participating in them. My dad and Kenny Bryant from Kenny's VW actually, and I rode in the back seat, like rode around and made a route for one of the navigation rallies. So
nice.
We used to do them in the buggy club when I was little. So I've always loved those rally type events.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that Winter Jam was doing a navigational rally, I was like, oh, we got to do it. So I got all my buggy friends and we had our rail buggies and just had an absolute blast. But like the second to last year, they did like a water cooled show indoors.
Okay.
And it was neat. It was in the convention center.
Okay.
On one side of the convention center, then on the other, they had like a half pipe set up, like BMX bikes and skateboards. And Chad McGee had his amazing vintage display set up there.
Oh yeah.
But it was like $20 a head to get into the Saturday night show. It was like more Sunday, and I was like, oh, this is a bit much. And then next year was like $30, and that's when Dodo took over, and the rest is history. But yeah, what Bill and his team have done with Nodo is amazing. It's an inspiration to the VW hobby because he's showing that it doesn't all have to be about money. And the promoters of Bug Jam, like, it's their business. I get it. Bill has a full-time job.
Yeah.
And the people that organize Bug Jam, it's their business. And they must be doing something right because it is growing every year. It's just not necessarily growing in the direction that I enjoy as much.
Okay. Yeah. It's true. Like I say, going back to like Nodo, it's because it's free. And it's just how Bill can do that with his volunteers and stuff like that. It is amazing. Like there's so many shows, especially I consider Fridays like a chill day. We roll in, we'll go to Daytona Air Cooled. There's a show going on there, music, food, speak to Charlie, say hi to everyone. It's a good time over there. And then we go to the campground, hang out for a little bit. But then they also have a little meet afterwards, and it was at a Peruvian restaurant, which is really cool. It's in the same location as Persimmons Brewery. It's still in that same parking lot. And this year it was packed. It just packed that parking lot. But then you got a bay window show, you got a split window show. You got
the beach hangout.
And there's another show going on, an all-car show. You got a rally going on, and then Just Buggin', Alton and Greg. I think it may have been them that put on another rally, and we were trying to do. Angie and I were going to try to do that one.
St. Augustine or whatever. Not St. Augustine.
It was like around the water, but we were going to do that, but we were still at the restaurant, and that was the only thing. These restaurants were so overwhelmed with all the people that showed. It took a while, and unfortunately we missed that reservation to go on that rally.
Yeah.
Hopefully next year we can do that. Another one too, Jason Davis puts on the Sanford show.
I haven't been to that one yet.
That's a great show. He's doing the same thing. It's a big turnout, a free show. It's nice because that's what entices people to go out more. It's easier to bring the family and more people out to those events because they don't have to worry, okay, well, my child I have to pay for them to get in, this, that. Oh, it's at a restaurant,
right?
The train station. There's restaurants that now we have to pay for that food too, and this and that. So it's nice, but I can only imagine the stress and everything that kind of is involved with that because how is that money coming in? How are they making revenue to pay for that space, that parking lot? How can they do that? So it's nice when they can get a show like that together. And
you see all the restaurant parking lots and the restaurants themselves packed full. You're thinking, man, they must be killing it. But it's like, we tend to linger. So are they really making that much money? Or are we eating pizza for half hour and then sitting around an hour and a half shooting the crap with our buddies after that?
And then people just bring their own food in the cooler. It's like, who knows what's going on? But it's cool to see stuff like that. And if the businesses are maybe kind of maybe putting up funds or whatever to do that because they know they're gonna make money. So maybe however they work that, I'm not sure, but they do great jobs on doing that.
Yeah.
I think how's the community changed with like social media and maybe like these shows and everything like that? Now we're starting to reach more people. You got 5,000 plus members. I mean,
I think it's a lot easier,
yeah,
to herd all the cats,
yeah,
when you have social media. We've been pretty fortunate. We don't really have a problem with a lot of drama in our
right,
group, which I
right.
guess would be the downside with social media. Nobody's pretending that all 5,000 of our members are active. That's just the reality of it. But I think that people that are active in the group, they see each other in real life, they camp with each other, they cruise with each other, and it tends to keep things very civil. I think
Right.
a lot of the animosity you get on social media is because strangers, they're never
Right,
going to
right.
see each other, and they
Yeah.
can tell everybody how dumb they are,
Yeah.
and how ugly they are, and
Yeah.
make fun of their.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually, yeah, that when I was in the Mustangs, I had a guy that was talking trash about my welding, and so I kind of lean into that. Like, so I made my avatar on the forum. It was like the symbol like for like a blind person with a cane, but I used Microsoft Paint, drew like a welding helmet, and then put some sparks underneath the cane. And I had like a little like fake business name like Helen Keller Welding. I leaned into it. But yeah, I think that these are people that you interact with in real life. It tends to keep the animosity down. But that would probably be the downside of it. Would be that animosity of the nationwide or
Yeah.
worldwide groups where people can just talk trash about other people.
Yeah. That's true.
Right.
And that's true too. People aren't hesitant to like, hey, if someone needs a part, usually we need a part here, just take it kind of thing. If it's something you need, I've given parts out. I've given things away like rims. I gave an exhaust just recently to another gentleman that needed the exhaust. I had an aftermarket exhaust. I just hey, just take this.
Yeah.
If it's something that someone was going to sell it, that's kind of burns you a little bit. But the Samba too. I think I used to rely on the Samba a lot too. Samba posts a lot of the technical things and shows and different stuff like that.
Yeah.
Classifieds. I think that was like the first thing. Then it was we had. I remember Yahoo classifieds. I don't think that's a thing anymore. And then we had Craigslist. I remember Craigslist classifieds. I don't use that anymore. But now Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace. That's I can't get off that. I know it. But the thing is, you go to reach out to somebody, or they'll email you. Yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Yeah, I'll be there today. You don't hear anything else. It's just like it's almost like the worst thing.
Yeah, the two things that annoy me about Marketplace is the people that use it a lot and just the weirdos, and the fact that that's how everybody buys and sells. So you got to play that game.
Right. It's tough too because if you do see something far away, some people say no holds. Well, I'm 2 hours away. I mean, I'll drive up there and get it if you'll hold it for me. And they're like, no. It's like, well, I'm not gonna drive up there and if someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know, just different weird things, but
yeah.
No one will take a deposit.
Yeah, YouTube video. I mean, that's definitely. I mean, if you needed to learn how to do something, you can just watch some other YouTuber and hope they know what they're doing.
Yeah, YouTube mechanics. Yeah, hopefully they know what they're doing.
And I don't know if society just is more towards immediate gratification because of social media.
Yeah.
Or if it's the other way around, but like the immediate gratification is nice because it used to be if you're in the VW club, you get the monthly newsletter or whatever, and then you wait for Hot VWs magazine, so you had to wait a month to find out what's on sale or when the next cruise is or whatever. For now, I mean, it can be in real time.
Right. I remember the CIP catalogs, California Import Parts. I remember getting those that we were like, oh, cool, this is cool. You didn't have internet to just go, oh, I can find this. It was just like catalogs. JC Whitney, remember the JC Whitney catalogs? Volkswagen. I get those all the time, and I'd order stuff from them. But yeah, what did you have? You a Hot VW subscription?
Yeah, I never really subscribed because I always like just going to the grocery store and getting them. Give me something to look forward to. So I will always pick them up. You spend more money, but I would get them every month. Usually VW Trends and Hot VWs. Man, I grew up reading magazines, and in the early days, I because you have all this mountain of magazines, and you can never remember which one the article you wanted was in. So I would sit in my room and I'd make like a technical index. Like I'd have handwritten notebook paper, like engine, and then I'd put 1600 rebuild Hot VWs, June 1987 or whatever. And then paint and body work and all this stuff. I'd write my own categories. And then as I got more comfortable with computers, I was like, I can write an Access database for this. Never used any of it,
Right.
but it's just a fun way as a kid before cable and just read everything you could and look at all the pictures. Yeah, especially growing up in Florida, the VW scene was always predominantly West Coast. And,
Right.
a lot of the things I was interested in were predominantly West Coast, so I couldn't really see a lot of what I wanted growing up, but other than magazines.
Right.
Magazines have a soft spot in my heart for that because that's where I learned a lot of information and how to do things, techniques, and all that.
That's true. Like I got my first magazine. I got my first VW Trends magazine in '97. I remember it was at the 7-Eleven right there on Bass Lake and Ridge Road. I remember grabbing it right from there. I still have that one actually.
And my first issue, I'm almost positive it was June 1987. That's kind of the date that I rattled off.
Yeah.
It was typical 80s car. It was like a light turquoise aqua color with a pink stripe diagonal. It was a convertible, I think. And that's the first one that I bought new at a grocery store in '87. I would have been 12.
Yeah.
And started buying them every month after that. And then I would always go to Alan and Jeannie up at A&J. And they would have the old issues for $1, and I'd go through and get 10 or 12. My dad would be up there getting parts or something, and I'd go get more. I couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember we just actually saw Al. We went up there probably, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a month ago or something like that now. And we went in that old little shed office. Yeah. And we went in there and we got some stickers and stuff like that.
Yeah, because out in front of that on the little porch there is where you keep all the back issues for $1.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it was cool going up there because I started going when I was in 6th grade. So I was 12 when I started. I think when I started going there, I was 14 when I bought my car. But yeah, 12 when I started getting involved with Volkswagens. So it was cool. Just that experience, you bring that memories back. You see all the same stuff in there, the old pictures and stuff. But going back now, so that you had your air cooleds, but you currently have an early Jetta Snooky.
You gotta keep that quiet.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So not to brag, not to sound like a jerk, but like
purist.
No. I know how to work on cars. I know how to troubleshoot cars. I know how to fix cars on the side of the road, but that doesn't mean I like to. Right. I just got to the point where, and quite frankly, the cost of air-cooled motors these days is just prohibitively expensive for me, just because I do have other hobbies, and it's just hard for me to spend $3,500 on a 50 horsepower motor. And I had my 72 Beetle. It was a good running, driving car, real solid body. It just needed paint. But my daughter was little, and I wanted to spend more time enjoying the cars and not working on them. And I knew if I tore the car apart to paint it, it'd be off the road for years, and I'd kind of miss some of her formative years. So the car was just in there doing much of nothing, really. I work with Dan, and we were at lunch one day, and he mentioned that a friend of his is selling an old Diesel Jetta, and I'm like, well, how old? And he's like, I think 82, and I was like, I'm thinking Dan's probably thinking like 92 or something like that. 82. So he pulls up pictures, and I was like, dude, this is a really sweet little Jetta. I sent a picture to my wife, and I was like, I really want this car. And she was like, oh, you should get it. And I was like, whoa, somebody hacked my wife's phone. But I got it from Steve Van Brockland, who is now a friend, a really nice guy. And we drove over and looked at it, and I drove it home. And I really like the car. I mean, even though it's diesel and makes like 50 horsepower or whatever, runs like a top. It gets 46 miles to the gallon.
That's awesome.
I still get thumbs up and nods at shows because they hear that old diesel rattling.
Yeah.
I still get stopped at convenience stores, listen to the stories about how, his parents had one who went cross country in it. And it's a 4-door with roll down back windows, so my daughter can roll down the windows and enjoy the ride. And the only thing that ever keeps it from starting is the ignition switch is going bad, and I've just been too lazy to fix it. So but I just keep a screwdriver stuck under the seat, and I get out there and touch the terminals together and start it up, and then get in and drive. But I've driven it across the state a few times to shows, and it runs like a top.
You can't ask for more than that, much more than that.
No,
You know,
no.
I've seen you take that to many shows. And even, well, for instance, I remember we took it to like Homosassa for the pizza meet. I remember you
Yeah.
had a car there too, and you definitely drive it. It's a fun little car, and it is cool seeing like a Mark One Jetta. You know, and it's
Yeah.
you don't see, especially around here, you don't see that. Even a
Well,
92 would be rare now.
I tell people, like, it's almost like almost like a real car. It
Yeah.
definitely doesn't have the quirks of the air cooled stuff, but it's obviously not. It doesn't have the technology or anything of the newer car. But it's funny because last year I was the tail end of the caravan over to Noto, and everybody's driving along the air cooled stuff. I was so bored. I'm like surfing Facebook, driving along, got the windows down, I got the stereo booming,
Yeah.
I'm like surfing
It's loud
Facebook because
too,
I'm
yeah.
just like, it drives enough like a real car that. And when I first got it, it was god awful slow, and I just thought that's just how it is. And I was getting ready to go to, I think, Noto the first time I drove it over. And I was over at another good friend of mine's, Greg Painter's house, and he's a big water cooled guy. He's never really known it air cooled. And we were doing oil change, and he helped me with some shifter bushings and adjusting the headlights. And he was like, "Let's take it for a spin and see how the headlights do." I go to drive it, and he was like, "Why is this thing so slow?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's to the floor." He goes, "It shouldn't be this slow." So on the Mark Ones, there's a bushing that goes in the pedal. There's like a half inch or 5/8 diameter hole in the pedal that the cable pops into.
Okay.
Well, that bushing, I guess, had worn out or whatever, so they zip tied the throttle cable to that hole, so it was barely getting any travel. And my fat lazy ass never got under there to look at it. He was like, so he grabbed a bushing from his stash and put it in there, and I was like, man, this thing feels like a Ferrari.
Yeah, look at that.
And coming back from Noto that year, I actually passed a car out. I know.
Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, it went from like maybe doing 60 mile an hour, like on a downhill run, to now I can cruise at 70 in it. So I was like,
Wow.
it's not that slow of a car.
Yeah.
So
You got a name for that car, right?
I do. Dirty Snooky. And it's a G-rated name. The car was originally sold by Snooky Harrell VW out of Decatur, Alabama. The car's original paint, and it's still got the original dealer sticker on the back that says Snooky Harrell VW. And it's a diesel, even though it doesn't smoke and it's not dirty. But I was like, yeah, that seems like a good enough name to run with. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's cool. Dave has provided a lot of helpful information to the community around here. He's definitely helped a lot of people, very knowledgeable. He's very, very mechanically inclined. He's helped a lot of guys in the group, myself as well. He was actually just at a friend Daniel's house helping non-Volkswagen, working on that vehicle and fix
don't
that.
tell anybody.
Yeah, don't tell anybody. He's not helping anymore. But I bring that up, but he's not helping anyone anymore because actually Dave just took a position up north. So he's going to be moving northeast, and we're kind of sad that Dave's going to be leaving. We're losing a good guy in the community. Like I said, he created a great community here with the Local Volks, and it's continued growing because of what he made, and it just continues to grow. You will never have to worry about Local Volks like going under. We'll still keep in touch, and it'll.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not an end of an era.
It's weird to be. I've lived on the same little dead end dirt road in Pasco County my whole life. I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago, and I never really thanks. I never really had any visions of leaving, but we're moving to upstate New York, which is a surprise to a lot of people.
Yeah,
my wife is from that area, and her dad and stepmom live up there, and honestly, I fell in love with the area the first time I went up there, and
it's beautiful.
we kind of around with the idea of maybe having like a summer place, and it just didn't seem to fit. And I tell everybody the Pasco County that we live in now is not the Pasco County that I grew up in. And the Florida isn't the same, and just some other stuff with money and everything. We happened to be up there on vacation when everything just came to a head, and she was like, "I want to move up here," and I'm like, "You know what? I do too." Yeah. So we made the decision, and we've been working towards that, and looks like we're getting close to the finish line with that. But
it's coming up soon. Yeah, Florida's not. It's not the same as when we grew up because so many people moving here. There's so much traffic now. Trying to get anywhere now, it's kind of tough, and it is kind of worrisome driving these Volkswagens. So many accidents happening now. It's just like, eesh.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn because where we're moving to is out in the middle of nowhere, and the roads are incredible driving roads. It's just windy, hilly roads. I don't really plan to take my Jetta with me, even though it'd be a great car for that. Only because I think we're so far away from any VW groups. I don't know that I would be able to have a reasonable driving distance to go hang out with anybody. And summers are short. It's still in the 30s. It snowed last weekend up there, and they salt the roads like crazy up there. So I don't know if I'd enjoy it enough of the year to keep it, worthwhile. So I'm going to try to sell it down here. And does the future hold another VW? I don't know. I don't really see it holding another VW right now, just if those circumstances stay the same, unfortunately. But never say never.
I mean, it's tough to get out of Volkswagens completely. They always bring you back in. It always gets you back in the...
Yeah, I mean, who knows? If I get up there and I meet a group, I've scoured Facebook and Google and everything looking for an active group up there. I haven't found anything, but if I stumble onto some people, I saw a Brazilian 23 when we were up there last summer sitting in a mechanic's parking lot.
Oh, cool.
So, I mean, there is, but I've seen like some old bay windows and stuff in shops. So,
they're up there.
Something,
they're up there.
And I know they have the big Mark I Madness down in Pennsylvania, which is probably a 5 or 6 hour drive.
They have a show in New Jersey too. Our friend Matt up in New Jersey had mentioned there's a big show out there. He's trying to get us to go to that. And then Massachusetts, there's a show as well.
Which is about 4 hours away in a non-VW, depending on where at Mass.
Yeah.
I don't know that I really want to be, I have a bad knee from that car accident that I was in. And unfortunately, it's my right knee, which is my gas pedal knee. So a car without cruise control,
it's tough.
becomes tough. And I don't know if I want to be that guy that trailers his car down, to meets or even like a monthly meet or something, But I don't want to be the guy who drives 6 hours either.
Because it does take a toll when you're driving that far. We're going to be going to the Pensacola show here in a few weeks, actually. Yeah, it's going to be a 7-8 hour drive. So we're in the Beetle. We're going to do it. But yeah, it takes a toll. Even going to Nodo or 3-4 hours in the Volkswagen, it actually took us 7 hours this time because so many stops. And we had a bunch of people in the caravan. We had to keep stopping because everyone got stuck at the light. Going back, and we had breakfast. And but yeah, I mean,
I'm sad I missed it.
Yeah.
I will say the one VW I do regret selling, and a friend of ours still owns it, Mark, is I had a 78 bay window Westie that I bought with a bad motor with the intention of doing a water-cooled swap. And I did a water-cooled swap, and he still drives it with that swap. And that is a comfortable ride for long trips. In fact, it was funny because one of the memorable things that I had, so many memories from VWs over the years, but one of the most memorable things is first time my wife and I drove it across state to hang out with some friends. And I look over and I'm, to talk to her, and I look and she's got her legs crossed, and I start laughing. She's like, what? I'm like, it's like we're sitting in our living room, just floating down the road at 60 miles an hour. You couldn't even do that in a new Hyundai. Like, you couldn't have your legs crossed. Like, she had her full, legs crossed. That is a nice long haul cruising ride.
In all the camp space or the later bays, I like the later bays because you can actually sleep up top, and you have the Z bed on the bottom, which is pretty cool. The 71 or early one, you can't sleep on that cot up there, but Anne and I can sleep on the bottom, and it's fine.
Yeah, the late bay always appealed to me. The problem with ours is that the interior was almost perfect. It was a grain with a grain pod, and the interior was almost perfect. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but for us, we wanted to use, and we camped in it. We towed our buggy with it up to Ocala and camped in it for the weekend and towed it home. But, with all the cabinets, you have the headache cabinet and the closet and everything, it gets real tight. And I didn't want to pull all that stuff out and just leave it sitting in the garage. And, the problem is the bus had some rust around the windows and stuff like that. So I needed to have all the glass pulled out and get all the body work done and everything. Right. And it was kind of like my Beetle. Like, I knew if I pulled it off the road and pulled it apart, I wouldn't have it back together anytime soon.
Right.
So if I get another one, I would probably get one that doesn't have an interior, so I could just do my own thing.
Yeah.
And then I would try to find one with an acceptable amount of rust and just drive the crap out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah. That's the way to do it. Like, if you're not getting involved with it, because like you said, you got your daughter and you want to spend time with the family. Yeah. And just wants me to keep getting these projects and work on them all the time, so I don't know.
Yeah. Come on.
But I know.
Rude.
I know. That bus is just obviously... Ange and I worked on the Bay Wind Alfonso for a while. I mean, I remember we worked on it for like a couple months straight just to try to get it to Nodo. And we were cranking for 2 months straight. every day doing something. It became too much. You get tired of working on it, but it's rewarding now that we're traveling and doing our thing.
Yeah, and it's
I
working out.
understand what you're saying.
I'm at the point. I will say, being out in my garage recently, as I get it organized to move and get things cleaned up and sold and everything, it's not so bad being out there when you have room to work
Right,
and know where things go and where things need to go and things like that. But when it becomes a chore, I never really liked working on something that I had to work on. I always want to work on it.
Right, exactly.
And I'm a procrastinator, and it always came down to that last minute thrash to get ready to go to a show, and you didn't get all the things done you wanted to, but you go down the list of what's acceptable to get done for this show and everything, and just the late night thrashes just got to be something that I didn't enjoy. One of the other passions that I've had my whole life is miniature cars, model cars, RC cars, stuff like that. So I've gravitated more towards that. And the nice thing is, if things aren't going my way, or if I mentally had a rough day at work and I don't feel like working on it, I don't have to. Like I don't have to drive that model car or that RC car to work the next day. Right. So that's where I'm at now. Is I don't necessarily feel like I need to have any cool one-to-one cars. It's weird. I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest, most passionate car guys that most people would ever meet, but I drive a stock Camry and I'm perfectly content in it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's going to start and I just have to change oil occasionally.
Yeah. Right. It's nice having that.
Yeah.
You get burnt out when you're always working on your car, and sometimes you just want to just get in your vehicle and just drive. Have our dailies, and it is a good thing to have. With my daily now, it's a car. I'm getting projects or doing stuff, and I want to tow. So it's not an issue now, but that's something maybe I should change. But anyway.
Yeah, trucks are just so expensive.
Yeah.
That's one project I do have. I have an 80s Ford crew cab truck that I'm building to tow with. And going to New York, and taking a half disassembled truck up there is not something I really look forward to. But so I could just sell it, probably take a loss, but I could sell it and just buy something new. And then I went online truck shopping, and I'm like, I just can't spend $70,000 on a truck, Yeah. I mean, even 55, 60,000. I just can't do it. And it'd be different if I could just spend 60 grand, suck it up, pay it off for 5 years, and enjoy the rest of my life. But things don't really work that way anymore. Like they just start having problems and they don't last. And I'm like, I couldn't spend that kind of money just to do it again in 7 or 8 years or whatever, you know? So I'm going to suck it up and drive the old Ford up there and finish it and enjoy it. I still do have a one-to-one project. It's not a VW, but it's not a passion project. It's just necessity and being cheap at this point. But
well, it's nice. I mean, you get something to work on when you want to work on it. Going back, project. I mean, not a project, but you have a buggy still?
Actually, as of a week or two ago, I don't have a buggy. I sold the buggy in anticipation of going to New York. I sold it to a good friend of mine, Ben, his son Patrick.
Okay.
He's a fireman for Pasco County, and I grew up riding in the woods with his dad. And Patrick, he's been riding most of his life in buggies, and he wanted one, and he's in financial position to do it. I always told people if I had to only keep one VW, I would keep the buggy, only because I could still go to Taco Tuesday, I could still go to No Dog, still go to any shows, but I can also go in the woods and have fun. And it's so much fun. And my daughter has so much fun, and my wife has so much fun. And, so if I had to have one, it would be it. Unfortunately, New York isn't really conducive to buggy riding, but they do have a lot of snowmobile and side-by-side riding.
Right.
So we sold the buggy and looking to get a side-by-side when we get up there and do some off-roading with that. So
nice. That'll be good. Sounds like you will have fun. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do up in New York in the Northeast. There's
shovel snow,
snowblow, step on the ice, build a fire,
pay a guy to plow your driveway.
Yeah, put some jackets on,
chop firewood. A lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, but myself, I stay here, so Massachusetts. No, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad. It sounds like you guys have you're gonna start I don't want to say a new life, but a new chapter.
Kind of is a new life.
It's definitely a new chapter, and I'm excited to see how it works out for you, and I'm sure it's going to work out well. You guys.
I just envision Green Acres.
It's
the
place
city
to be.
slickers moving.
Yeah. They're like, who are these Florida folk coming in there?
Yeah, it's a small town feel and a small town lifestyle, and I'm here for it. As big as I'm looking forward to having property and not having neighbors. and not having traffic. I'm going to miss so many of the people and the experiences here. I'm going to miss the caravan, Sonoto. And who knows, maybe I'll have a rental Kia, fly down and rent a Kia and,
ride with us or someone, ride with someone down, hop in the car. Yeah. You'll still have that connection here with Florida, obviously. That's never going to go away.
I'll get kicked out of Local Volks, though.
Dan said he's going to, as soon as you leave,
boom,
he's racing you off the thing. I'm president now, but no, like you said, you always have connections here, places to stay and stuff like that too. So there'll be multiple Volkswagens to drive, especially I'll have some here too. So if you want to go to any shows or anything, but Dave, thank you very much for doing this podcast with me. It's something I want to do for a while. You're a good friend of mine. I've known you for a long time, and I'm glad you were able to share your story with the community and what your thoughts are, your cars, and just Volkswagen life.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I listen to podcasts exclusively on my short commute to and from work. I have over 100 gigs of music saved on my phone, but it's always these stupid podcasts that I listen to on a variety of topics. A theme that a few of the podcasts have is doing these interviews for posterity. Because people aren't around forever, but the technology, these podcasts will be.
Yeah.
Look at Bill Segrino out in Vegas, with his podcast. I mean, he's had quite a few interviews that people have unfortunately passed away after doing it, but we'll always have that podcast. And
right.
One of the early episodes, he had a guy on and his, the guy passed away soon after, and his wife and kids still reach out and say thank you so much because they have like an hourage of recording
that's cool.
of his stories and his voice to talk. We're not going to be around forever, but this podcast will be,
right,
in one form or another. I'm happy we get to share this and put it out there forever.
It'd be great. We're sharing it, and people will have the experience to listen to this, whether they want it or not. They're going to be listening to this. This is going to be out there. But like I said, thanks again, though. I really appreciate it. And I wish you and the family much success up there, and I'm sure you're going to do fine. And you always got a place back in Florida to join Volkswagens to drive and go to some shows. So
I appreciate that.
Yep. So not gone. He'll be back. So thanks again. We'll see you guys later. Have a great night. You can always listen to the podcast on any of your favorite platforms, watch or listen. So thanks again, guys. Episode 11. We'll see you guys next time.
We're out. Bye, everybody.
Peace.